Hey everyone, Garbage here. So as you know, I am currently making a multiplayer first-person shooter. And recently I've been working a lot on the shooting mechanics, which inevitably means that I'm doing a lot of work with the view model, which is the gun in your hand. And so recently I had to deal with a pretty classic problem when it comes to view models in first-person shooters. I've talked about this a lot in other videos, but basically because the view model is like a physical gun in your hand with actual length and dimensions, if you get too close to something like a wall, because it's a video game, the view model will just clip inside the wall, which looks really weird. And so one really common way for first-person shooters to deal with this issue is to render the view model on a separate layer from the rest of the game. That way, no matter what's happening or where you are, the gun always shows up on top. And the game engine that I'm using, Godot, it has the ability to render on separate layers as well, but it's bugged. And so certain things like post-processing effects just don't work on the second layer, which results in the gun looking really weird and out of place. And so to get around this issue, what I ended up doing is using a collision-based view model, which is actually a pretty common thing to do in games like PUBG, Tarkov, Doom. Basically what you do is you put a hitbox on the gun, and if the game detects that the gun is starting to clip into a wall, it just moves the gun out of the way so that it never has an opportunity to clip into the wall. And that's the solution that I use for my game. And it works pretty well. Though in my particular case, it does create some issues. You'll notice that the gun is pretty low on the screen. And the reason why I'm doing that is so that the gun doesn't take up too much space on the screen. As we all know, I have some pretty strong opinions about visibility in first-person shooters. And so I don't want to have a gun taking up like a quarter of the screen just for the sake of aesthetics. But by doing this, it creates a problem, especially when I'm crouching. So if you're crouching and you're up against a low wall where you're still able to shoot over the wall, I mean, you're able to shoot over the wall just fine. There's nothing wrong with the mechanics, but the view model in the position that it moves back to, it looks like the gun is shooting into the wall rather than over the wall. And this isn't really a huge issue, but it does bother me a little bit. And so the solution that I came up for that is when you are crouching and up against the wall, the gun will enter into an ADS pose where you're aiming down the sights of the gun. And in my opinion, that makes it look a little more natural when you're shooting over the wall. And ultimately, it's just a small little thing that won't really affect gameplay at all. And so I'm not even sure if this little feature is going to make it into the final game. But even if I do get rid of it, I'm not going to completely get rid of it because then I'll have a ADS mechanism that I could take advantage of if I want to. And the funny thing is that all of this stemmed from trying to get around a single bug in my game engine. And you might be thinking, oh man, Godot sucks, I better use something else. But don't forget that every single game engine has its own unique quirks and bugs. Even Unreal Engine, the big daddy of first-person shooters, apparently it doesn't even support rendering on separate layers. And so a lot of first-person shooters made with Unreal Engine will also use the collision-based view model because everything has to be rendered all at once. And Unity has its own issues. Every single engine is going to have its own little quirks that you have to find creative solutions for. That being said, it is true that Godot has quite a few issues. One particular issue that I'm going to have to deal with eventually is an issue with precise audio timing, especially when it comes to things like gunshot sounds for automatic weapons. You want those gunshots to happen at a very consistent rate. And so right now I'm working on an assault rifle type of weapon, and I did manage to find one very specific rate of fire that sounds pretty consistent. But if I want to change that rate of fire even a little bit, the consistency of the audio timing completely goes out the window. And you compare that to pretty much any other game, and the gunshots happen very, very consistently, and Godot doesn't seem to be able to do that. And while I was reading into it, it seems like it's kind of an unsolved problem right now, and fixing it would require a pretty significant change to the engine. That being said, I have seen some examples of people making first-person shooters in Godot where things like gunshots from automatic weapons sound very, very consistent. And so obviously they've managed to find some kind of workaround. And if that's you, I need you to tell me in the comments right now how you did it. Just kidding. Tell me if you want. You don't have to. It's not a big deal. So the real question then is it worth it? I could be using any other game engine in the world and not have to deal with these same issues. So why am I sticking with the engine that I'm using now? And basically it comes down to this. I truly believe that Godot is the best engine on earth. And I am willing to work with these issues and find creative solutions to these limitations, because I know eventually Godot will in fact become the best engine in the world. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and bell for more gaming content. Links to my Discord and Twitter down below. And as always, have a nice day.